so we kind of had a couple of anchor ideas around income polarization, and one of the main Marxist writers on income polarization that would also kind of challenge kind of the Piketty kind of argument, and would also be able to put it in a wider context over where this fit within neoliberalism. That was Simon Mahone. And then we went for Walden, partly to get at somebody who had a perch on China-US dynamism and dynamic rivalry, that wasn't coming at it from North America, but was coming out of East Asia. And Walden, in one sense, is at the perfect perch, right? Being there in the Philippines, educated in the U.S., totally involved for the last 30 or 40 years in East Asian politics through the Forum on the Global South that he's been so integral. A politician in the Philippines, coming out of dependency theory and having some sympathy for Maoism, so he just was the kind of perfect person to ask to kind of do an assessment of how you interpret those that situation. So we had a couple of themes like that, and then we knew we wanted to cover from different angles the different elements of the American left, interpreting how to think about Trump and the left's positioning in relationship to the far right, that in our view that wasn't kind of going to be reversed even if Trump lost. And there's an argument we had been making in the pages of the Register going back to the about 26, when we did the volume on the politics of the right. So it was an argument we had for a long time about this, and Leo had. I was in the middle of a major argument all the time between Leo and Sam around this stuff. Leo in the last year, it was even kind of reading kind of game theory analysis of coups in America from kind of various kinds of those kind of game theory, military think tanks, political science department think tank stuff, and was obsessed by this issue. And Ginden was on the opposite side. They were just going at each other as two old Jewish comrades from Winnipeg can go at each other. And so we wanted to get different angles of the American left on that, and so that's the cluster of those essays. And then there was a couple of other kind of obvious places that we wanted. Russia was one, the politics in Britain after the Corbyn defeat and the mess up of Starmer and kind of where that is. So that kind of issue was central as well. So, and then we wanted a couple of kind of essays that would deal with the range of kind of identity politics, and that polarization. And Samir is an old friend of Leo's and mine, as former student at York, not of ours directly, but old friend, and he's been one of the major public intellectuals in Canada, writing on cancel culture, identity politics, all that kind of stuff. And he was, and so he was also somebody we wanted and thought it would be make a very good contribution. And we also actually wanted to kind of something from the angle that he worked from the theoretical perspective he works within, which was the Frankfurt School, and that their focus on their longtime focus, obviously going back to fascism, and their their critical understanding of identity and cultural formation that she had been focused on. So we kind of sought him out as well. So that was kind of the logic which we brought together. And then the last one was on the one I mentioned. I didn't quite come back to on epidemiological neoliberalism in South Africa. Just we're looking for what would kind of capture. We had done some of the prior issue. We had a couple essays on the pandemic and the health crisis, and a little bit around alternative tech to deal with health issues. And South Africa seemed to be a very good example, not only of the the polarization being outside of the mass vaccination of the North through the concentration of vaccines, but also the long-time struggle that had been in South Africa around access to vaccines, going back to the AIDS struggle, which they were at the center for, kind of for the patent-free AIDS drugs, and they had also as a result of that, they were one of the few countries in the world that developed a kind of mass political campaign around the pandemic and how it was being fought. So they just made a lot of sense also to reach out there as a key example of polarization in that issue. Besides South Africa being one of the most highly polarized countries in the world still.